Hey guys, thanks so much for tuning in today. On this episode, we're going to be covering how to change the oil in your motorcycle. Now, before you fold your arms and say, there's a lot of different motorcycles out there, we know that, but we think you can still do this yourself, and there's a few things that you're going to need before we do. The first thing you're going to need is your motorcycle manual. We say it every episode, and today is no exception. Get the motorcycle manual for your bike. Next, you're going to need oil. Seems pretty straightforward. Also, an oil filter is really handy. You're going to want to change this every time you change the oil on your bike. It's also a good idea to have a nice funnel or fun time oil cone, as we call them. And of course, you're going to need a few basic tools. Most of the time, this can be done with just simple tools that you can find around the house, and we're pretty sure you can do this with the tools you already have. A nice rag or t-shirt is always handy to have around, as well as an oil drain pan to collect all of that oil so that we can recycle it when we're done. A nice tip is to go ahead and ride your motorcycle before you do this oil change. This is to heat up the oil so that it flows out of your motorcycle much easier. You want to make sure your bike isn't too hot when attempting to change the oil. The first thing we like to do before we start draining the oil is to go ahead and check where the level currently sits. This is good for record keeping and to also just make sure that you're putting in the right amount of oil after the fact. Of course, you're going to refer to your motorcycle manual, but this is always good as a frame of reference. On this BMW, you remove the dipstick on the left-hand side of the motorcycle, remove the dipstick, wipe it down, and put it back in so you can see where the level is at. After checking that out, you're going to fumble around with the hole here a lot. You can see right here we really botched this, and we tried to look like professionals and we decided not to reshoot it. Next, we are going to want to drain the oil from our motorcycle. To do so, locate the drain bolt. This can oftentimes be found on the bottom of the motorcycle, but a lot of times some newer Harleys or other bikes have a different system in place, so be sure to consult your manual to make sure that you're doing this properly. When you've located the drain bolt, you're going to want to use the right tool to remove the bolt, and we like to start off by using a tool, but then we like to finish by hand to avoid stripping anything or putting too much pressure on this, but be careful not to get any hot oil on your hands. We also suggest that you wear some gloves, although we're not doing a good job of showing that here. Most of the time we wear gloves, but we forgot to because we're shooting a video. While that oil is draining, let's go ahead and keep busy. The next thing we can do is install that new oil filter we talked about. Because every motorcycle is different and this is a general overview of how to change your oil, we're not going to go into the specifics of how to remove an oil filter, but remember, it's best to do it after the oil has drained out of your motorcycle. And another good rule of thumb is to put a little bit of oil around any seals so that it properly seats and is well lubricated upon putting into the new bike. Now that all the oil has drained out of our motorcycle and we've installed our new oil filter, let's go ahead and put that drain plug back in. But before we do, it's good to wipe it down, clean it, inspect it for any metal bits or shavings to make sure your bike is running properly, and then in most cases, install a new washer. We're putting in a new crush washer here and making sure that it is to spec as we tighten it down. You do not want to over tighten this because it could be detrimental to your engine block. And last but not least, let's go ahead and put the right amount of oil into our motorcycle. Then we should be good to go. We hope that you guys learned a little bit on this episode, and we're open to your feedback. Let us know in the comments below how we did and what other topics you'd like for us to cover. Thanks a ton.